Hey guys, the Black Critic Guy back with another top 10 list for Nostalgia Month. And since I did my top 10 favorite Cartoon Network shows last week, that now only leaves a top 10 list of my favorite shows from Nickelodeon! Now I don't know if I said this before in a past video, but of the 3 channels that I watched as a kid, Nickelodeon was my favorite and the one that I watched the most. And not only that, this was the hardest list for me to make based off of the 3 channels. With Disney and Cartoon Network, I had a small list of shows to pick from, but with Nickelodeon, I had a huge list. I mean, a huge list. A huge list. It took up almost the entire page. Not only did I watch every single show mentioned in this notebook, but I enjoyed each and every one of them. That's why this list was so difficult to make. I had such a hard time picking who would make it onto the top 10 and who would just be honorable mentions. And that's attributed to the fact that Nickelodeon was such a creative and diverse channel with many quality TV shows that appealed to both kids and young teens in the 90s and early 2000s. Not only did they have great cartoon shows, but they also had equally great live action and variety shows, making Nickelodeon one powerhouse channel in the kids, teens, entertainment market. And as I mentioned earlier, before we get to the list, I have a lot of honorable mentions. Shows that I enjoyed watching as a kid but just didn't make the final cut to make it onto the top 10 list. And here we go. Starting it off, we got The Amanda Show, Zoe 101, My Cousin Skeeter, Chalk Zone, Rocket Power, The Angry Beavers, The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron, Rocko's Modern Life, Ren and Stimpy, Cat Dog, Invader Zim, Hey Arnold, and My Life as a Teenage Robot. I can just see the dislikes rolling in now. Starting off our list at number 10, we got Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, a show about a kid and his 2 friends trying to make it through high school by following these sets of guidelines in a notebook and their misadventures. Though only having 3 seasons, the show left a lasting impression on me with its memorable and likable characters, both main and supporting, my favorite one being the janitor. The guy always had me laughing. He had the best lines and the best scenes in the show, the hilarious situations that the characters would get into, and the life lessons that they would learn. It's just the overall enjoyment of the show. I enjoyed every single episode. I was always laughing, always cheering, and I always wanted to see what misadventures Ned and his friends would get into. Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide was just a fun time through and through, portraying the semi-realistic yet over-the-top hilarity of the life of a high school student. Learning about animals one continent at a time is my number 9 choice, The Wild Thornberrys. The Wild Thornberrys was not only a show with fun characters, solid animation, and interesting stories, but it also was a show that perfectly blended entertainment and education to be a show that was not only fun, but also taught you something. I personally learned more about different cultures and animals by watching this show than I ever did by reading a textbook or going to school. That is the honest truth. And the show was made more fun by the fact that our main character Eliza can talk to various animals and learn more about these animals by actually talking to them and hearing what they have to say. I thought that was really cool as a kid and very interesting. The Wild Thornberrys, both as a family and as a show, was a smashing good time. Brothers to the very end is my number 8 choice, Drake and Josh. I don't know a single person, at least in my generation, who hasn't seen a single episode or heard of Drake and Josh. I mean, this show was everywhere when it came out on Nickelodeon, and it was one of Nickelodeon's most popular TV shows, and for good reason, because the show in its entirety was just a whole lot of fun. Taking our 2 favorite cast members from The Amanda Show, pairing them up, and giving them their own show was just gold. I enjoyed every single episode and seeing Drake and Josh get into situation after situation, dealing with their evil sister, and just trying to live normal lives and getting used to the fact that they're brothers now. And the relationship between Drake and Josh I felt was strong. They had good chemistry, the actors were solid. It was just an overall fun TV show. And that theme song is just catchy as hell. I could listen to it over and over and over again. It's one of the best theme songs for a TV show I've ever heard. Fresh out the box, stop, look and watch. Ready yet? get set for my number 7 choice. It's All That. This show, which is basically the kids' version of SNL, was without a doubt the first variety show I ever watched and fell in love with. I loved all the skits. The cast members were all entertaining. I thought they worked very well together and they all had great comedic timing. And the show also introduced me to some of my favorite kid actors of the time. Kenan Thompson, Kel Mitchell, Amanda Bynes, Nick Cannon, a plethora of others as well. And again, the theme song is just so addicting and catchy. It makes me feel good inside and brings me back to a time when I was a kid and would watch the show and brings a huge smile on my face. It is without a doubt one of my favorite theme songs to listen to, and it actually was number 1 in an old top 10 list I made of nostalgic TV show theme songs. That's how much I loved it, and I listen to that song to this very day, sometimes in repeat. All That was a show that truly lived up to its name and gave me some of my most fondest childhood memories, and for that I thank it and I will never forget it. Although later seasons though, yeah, let's not talk about them. Disappearing and reappearing at the number 6 spot, we got Danny Phantom. Now, I just recently did a review for this show, so I won't spend too much time talking about it in this video. If you would like to know my full thoughts about the show, just click this link right here and it'll send you straight to that review. But to sum it all up, Danny Phantom was just a really fun, exhilarating, and excellent kids show with well-developed, interesting, and fun characters, interesting and well-told stories that kept you enticed, solid animation, creative action scenes, and great voice work from all the voice actors, which I forgot to mention in my review. And another thing that I forgot to mention was the unique musical score of the show. I thought that it really stood out and I just loved the way that it sounded. Overall, Danny Phantom was just a perfect package wrapped up in a box sent to me by the Box Ghost. And that's why it's number 6. Here it goes! Is my number 5 choice, Kenan and Kel. Now, Kenan Thompson and Kel Mitchell were my favorite cast members in All That. So when those two got a show together, needless to say, I fell in love instantly. Kenan and Kel was without a shadow of a doubt the precursor and probably the inspiration to Drake and Josh. I mean, think about it. Both share similar formats, both have 2 prominent and likable castmates from other shows team up into one show, and both have similar comedic styles. You could almost say that Drake and Josh is the white guy version of Kenan and Kel, minus the whole brother factor, of course. But what makes Kenan and Kel stand above Drake and Josh is just how memorable the show was and just how much fun I had with it. I mean, I will never forget all the different catchphrases in the show. Like whenever Kel would say something weird or get them into crazy situations, Kenan would just turn to him and be like, "Why?" Or the beginning of the show where Kenan actually addresses the audience and then Kel comes out and he tells Kel to get all these different things and he's like, "Wait a minute, what do we need this for? What do we need that for? Kenan, here it goes." Or Kel's love of orange soda. I'm never gonna forget about that. But probably the most standout moment in the entire series was when Kel actually comes up on stage with Kenan and brings all the stuff that Kenan has asked for throughout the entire series. That was surprising, that made me laugh, and that was just perfect. Now as for my number 4 choice, what could it be? Oh, I got it. I wish that it was the Fairly OddParents. Oh yeah, I forgot. I'm too old to have fairy godparents. But anyway, yeah, number 4 is The Fairly OddParents. A show about an average kid who no one understands that gets fairy godparents with magical powers that can grant him any wish that he so desires as long as it doesn't break any of the rules. What kid has never dreamt of that? I can tell you right now, I've always dreamt of having fairy godparents that can grant me wishes. I was so jealous of Timmy Turner when I was a kid. I'm like, screw that kid. I mean, the show is just bursting with creativity at every corner. From the many characters in the show to the many wishes that Timmy Turner makes that gets them into outrageous situations. I mean, the show is just overall entertaining and a great show for kids. And the show, unlike many shows before and after it, did a really good job at addressing experiencing the thoughts, mentality, and ideas that went through kids' minds and the repercussion and consequences of those ideas. I can wholeheartedly say that some of the crazy situations, some of the crazy ideas, and some of the wishes that Timmy makes are things that I also thought of as a kid. Like there's one episode where Timmy wishes that it could be Christmas every day. What kid has never wished for Christmas to come every single day? A day where you just get presents upon presents. Any kid would have wanted that. Or that one episode where he wished that kids were in control because adults ruin everything. Or that one wish where he felt like his parents never appreciated him, so he escapes into TV. I mean, again, these are things I thought of as well when I was a kid. But they also highlight the consequences behind that train of thought. And not in a belittling way, but in a way that kids can really understand. Making the Fairly OddParents one of the few kids shows that really understood and never belittled its audience. Nowadays, I can't really defend it on that level. I haven't seen the new Fairly OddParents episode, so I don't know what it's like. But for me, when I was a kid watching the Fairly OddParents, I just really loved the creativity. I loved the animation. I really enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the situation, and I loved the comedy. It was just a great kids show. My number 3 choice had a saying, and it goes like this: a baby's gotta do what a baby's gotta do. The Rugrats. Now, I personally don't remember if this is true, but I believe that the Rugrats was the first Nickelodeon TV show that I watched, and I just really enjoyed it. I mean, a show about a bunch of babies getting into misadventures without their parents ever knowing, that's just gold. I enjoyed most of the baby characters. Tommy, the fearless leader, Chucky, the scaredy cat who I related to the most in the show, Phil and Lil, the twins who eat worms and all these other disgusting things. Later on, Kimmy joins them, who's like this adventurous spirit. I just loved her personality. And did you know that she was voiced by a blind girl? I didn't know that. That was pretty interesting. Dill, I wasn't really a big fan of Dill. I mean, even when they introduced him in the first movie, I just never liked Dill. He was just annoying to me. Then you got Angelica, the prissy, spoiled brat who loves this ugly doll named Cynthia. And then lastly, we got Susie, who unfortunately is the token black character, but she's just so sweet and nice. I liked her personality. The adventures that the babies would get into, I always found entertaining. They all just work so well together, and although a lot of people don't like the animation because they think it looks ugly, I thought it was really unique. Even the older episodes that look really grungy. I mean, yeah, it does look bad, but I give them props for their unique qualities. Rugrats in its entirety was just a delightful show, and I really enjoyed it as a kid. Now, for my number 2 choice, I know a lot of you are gonna find this shocking, especially for people who knew me personally as a kid. Not because of what the show is, but the fact that I placed this show at the number 2 spot and not the number 1. And the reason for that is because I was a uber fan of this show. I love this show to death, and it is one of the shows that molded me into the person that I am, my positive, fun-loving nature. It was mainly due to this show that I'm about to talk about. And the fact that I didn't put it at number 1 might shock a few people. It shocked me because I thought I was gonna put it at number 1. But there was a show that I personally felt like was better than this show and still is good. But enough being around the bush, what is my number 2 choice? That show is Spongebob Squarepants. Saying that I was in love with this show is a huge understatement. I was obsessed with this show as a kid. The minute that I saw the first episode, I was hooked. I was like, I love this show. I love how unique it was. I love the characters. I love the humor. I loved everything. I loved it so much that I not only bought SpongeBob plush toys, SpongeBob dolls, SpongeBob toys. I also bought SpongeBob comic books. I bought SpongeBob books. I always would quote SpongeBob as a kid. In my class, I would just spew out a random line in SpongeBob. I know the entire Krusty Krab pizza song, each and every line of that song, and people will walk up to me as a kid and say, can you sing the Krusty Krab pizza song? I would sing it here, but it would be too long, and it'd be kind of weird, and it might scare some people off, but as a kid, I was addicted. I was obsessed. I loved SpongeBob. And it's just so funny. A show about a sponge that lives under the sea in a pineapple, and it's not even a sea sponge. He is like one of those artificial sponge that we use to wipe down counters or wipe dishes. I mean, that's the type of sponge he was, but something about it just appealed to me as a kid. The humor was spot on. Some of it having humor that adults would catch immediately and that would go over my head. It was just a very unique show. And now here we are at the #1 spot. And what show could that be? What show was so great, so fantastic, so flawless that it beat out Spongebob Squarepants, a show that had a huge impact on me as a kid and molded me into the person that I am, a show that I was ridiculously obsessed with, that I would quote it on a daily basis whenever I would go to school, and a show that I still hold precious in my heart? Well, that show is Avatar: The Last Airbender. To call Avatar: The Last Airbender a great kids show does not do the show any justice and kind of undermines the greatness and richness of the show, because it's no longer just a great kids show. It has now transcended that to be an excellent animated series that appeals to a larger audience, both young and old. And the fact that it never belittles its audience by simplifying the story shows great courage and great respect to the source material from the creators, the writers, and directors and producers. The show has some of the strongest writing I've ever seen in any show, regardless of whether it's for kids or adults, that tackles on very deep and complex stories. The show also does a really good job at world building and spreading cultural awareness through diversity, with each one of the nations having their own sets of traditions and customs that are based on traditions and customs here in the real world by other cultures. From Inuit to Asian to European, they have it all in the show. I mean, honestly, how many other shows can you name off the bat that are as culturally aware and diverse as Avatar: The Last Airbender? Because honestly, I can't think of one. The animation style is just pristine and the action scenes are so exhilarating to watch. And lastly, the characters. All the characters are fully fleshed out, fully realized, and they all work so well together. If you were to take one of those characters out of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the show would not be the same. And I seriously mean that. And many of you are going to strongly disagree with my final statement here, but I don't care, because this is how I truly feel. Avatar: The Last Airbender is without a doubt a perfect show. I have yet to find any fault with it. I have yet to find any of the characters weak, any of the storylines useless. Nothing about the show stands out as weak. It is a strong show altogether and one of the best shows I've ever seen. And that is why I made it #1. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the list of my top 10 favorite Nickelodeon TV shows. And I would like to know what you guys thought about this list. Did you agree with it? Did you disagree with it? Did you feel like I left any shows out, or did you feel like I should have put some of the honorable mentions on the list? And also let me know, what is your favorite Nickelodeon TV show? Comment below and let me know. And stay tuned, I got a very special review coming your way. And until that video comes, hit that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Welcome to the Black Critic Guy. Like this video if you really enjoyed it, and I'm Tony Waller II, the Black Critic Guy. Till then, peace YouTube.